In this episode, I'm talking to Nick Gushchin, who is a co-founder of the AI Swiss Chatbot Factory. Try saying that company name several times in a row very quickly when you're recording the intro to a podcast. Nick is an ex-high-flying banker with a whopping 5 degrees who had a chance encounter on a flight that changed his career path. He now runs a company which uses AI to build AI-powered chatbots for customers. In our conversation, we talk about his path to getting there and how it wasn't just a matter of vibe coding and hoping for the best, how having AI on your side allows you to iterate on product ideas much more quickly, and also how using different approaches reduces the chances of hallucination in their chatbots. Unfortunately, we had a few audio hiccups, so you might hear some crackling in Nick's audio from time to time, maybe once every 5 to 10 minutes. And towards the end, his very expensive, lovely professional grade mic ran out of battery, so we had to switch to the AirPods. So if you hear something slightly different in the audio quality in the last 10, 20 minutes, do not adjust your set. It was a problem on our end. Hopefully that doesn't spoil your enjoyment of the episode. And with that, I will leave you to the conversation. Nick Gushchin, you've gone from being an economics whiz working in banking to running the Swiss Chatbot Factory, which has been quite a journey, or so I gather. And you've done all of this, not vibe coding, but actually learning to program properly in Python via the means of LLM instruction, I gather. How did all that go? Tell us about your story.
Thank you. First of all, Daniel, thank you very much for having me. My story indeed is a little bit different from majority of tech guys because I was doing banking for almost 18 years. And in the banking, I was predominantly focused on client relationship management and also on people management. So I have 5 economical degrees, 2 of them are Master of Business Administration. And I think last 10 years, my role was mostly about management and leading projects, opening new markets, bringing new products, you name it. So quite creative work. But at some point, I also realized that there is a limit for the banking creativity, which you can bring. Because just to tell you that to bring to the market any new product, any smart idea which you have, it will take you from 9 to 12 months at a very fast pace. And this means that within even your lifetime, the amount of projects which you can actually deliver to the markets is you can name them. Yeah, so it's quite tight, and having quite a good career, reaching a very interesting levels. I came to the understanding that I would like to do more. By chance, story started that I was flying to a conference and I met a guy from robotics who told me about ChatGPT. And this happened literally a couple of months after release of ChatGPT. So 3.5 was the smartest model at this moment. And people like crazy, at first in the tech community, were using ChatGPT. What inspired me to make this move and to start testing the technology at this time, so it was end of 22, beginning of 23, was one thing which this guy told me when I was asking him about ChatGPT, what is AI, how it can help us. And also need to tell that in the banking sector, we were looking at possibilities and capabilities of AI for quite a long time. But all the time it was very silly models, I would say. So they were not smart. So you had to program and you would expect them, because it's called artificial intelligence, that it would be intelligent. But you would always meet the problem that no, it's not intelligent. It's still this algorithm or some waterfall logic, which you actually give to some system which calls itself AI. So having this in mind, I asked the guy, okay, what is so cool about this ChatGPT? And he told me several things. It can write emails, it can write messages. I said, okay, I can do this as well. And I'm sure that I can, to a certain extent, I'm sure that I can do this better than any AI at this moment, at this period of time. And then he told me one thing. He told me that this thing can write a Python code for you if you ask it. I said, no, this can't be true. Like, it means that it will convert, you want to say that this will convert my language, my textual request, my non-structured textual request to the structured code output. And the guy said, yeah, this is what will happen. I said, this is insane. It cannot be true. If it's true, then I think this is the first time since I finished my school when I can try and learn again coding. And I do remember I landed in the airport. I immediately uploaded the application, and I've asked my first question, like, write me a simple code on Python, because I didn't know Python at this moment. And he wrote me this print, hello world. Okay, so this is a Python, but I think we can go a little bit further. And this is how my story started with the coding. I realized that there is which can actually take my request. And again, it's very important that we as a human beings, we speak very unstructured language. We speak usually in a very unstructured manner. Also, it's interesting that, for example, when you speak English, it's much more structured than many other languages which exist in the world. And that's why, for example, as far as I read, that if you measure right now IQ level of the recent GPT model. So let's take GPT. If you measure this in English, and then, for example, in Italian, in English, it will be 180 IQ, and in Italian, it will be lower. And the reason for this, and in Slavic languages, it's going even much lower, so 100 something. Still quite intelligent. And I spoke with some of the guys from science, so who do AI, not use AI like I'm using now, but who are doing AI. They said that the problem is that when you actually fine tune, when you teach the model, the tokenizing in the English language works much better than it works in other languages, because English is already having a very solid structure, like German language as well. And you cannot mess the words around. Whether in some other languages, you would have this situation that you can completely reshuffle the words, and still it will be understandable for the person. But when you're trying to tokenize it and teach the model, it would be much more difficult. Daniel, I need to ask you, I'm talking a lot, and I would probably suggest that you can interrupt me, because you can see I when I start to tell something, and I like to speak with people, and I have quite a number of friends who calls me to ask something about AI and to listen what I will reply. But I know that sometimes this could be too much. So please
No,
interrupt when
that
I
is
go
absolutely
the wrong
fine.
direction.
I think the listeners of the podcast much prefer listening to the guests who have the insight rather than me making rubbish witticisms. I was just thinking there were two things that jumped out at me as amusing there. One is that English having more structure. I think so many people who have emigrated into England and suffered British politeness and trying to figure out what the hell British people mean when they're being very vague, not giving direct instructions, might be surprised by that. And the other thing is, I just love the fact that your story started by talking to a guy when you were flying somewhere. Were you sat next to each other on the plane? Was it that kind of conversation? This is maybe I've been missing out by being, somewhat introverted on planes and in public spaces. Of like, I'm the guy that's like noise cancelling headphones on, not making eye contact with anyone, but I must be missing out on life-changing opportunities because you don't know where a conversation might lead.
It's true. It's true. I was flying a lot during my banking times. At some point, I realized that this is a moment when a group of people is actually captured together with you in a very small space, but you have something in common. So you are traveling from A to B, and it already brings some sort of the common ground for you. And also, because due to the randomizer, this can be people which might bring something new to your life and some new information, which exactly happened with me. So that was not my first chit chat with a person on the plane. Once I do remember, I'm not in contact with this lady, but I do remember I was flying from Amsterdam with a lady who just purchased some franchise of yoga, and she was so excited, and she told me a lot of things which I didn't know. How does franchise work? Why did she have to fly to Amsterdam to buy it? And it was so cool to speak with her because she was very energizing and giving this energy to the people around her. But it only started when you ask something. Yeah, so you say hi, flying. Yeah, it's cold, hot here, and I was here because I was visiting someone. And what do you do? And then it starts. The situation which happened with the guy who introduced me to effectively, he changed my life. And we are still in contact. He now lives in Japan. He is in robotics, so he is on some senior levels in one of robotics company. And I mention him sometimes. We're from time to time in contact. I follow him, what he's doing. I see that he's from time to time also commenting and following me also. And it's very interesting that indeed, I think at this moment of time, I was looking for opportunities which will help me to start building my own projects, my own ideas in a much faster way than even executive banking management position would allow me at this point of time. Yeah, to go further with the story, when I landed, I tested, I understood that yes, it can code. The second code which I asked it to give me was give me a code for a calc to do a simple math. Then I saw much more lines, still very small code snippet. And then you start to ask questions. Okay, so if I want to deploy this, even at this time, deploying would be a strange word for me, but if I want to bring this calculator to people, what should I do? So where do I put this code in? Where is my space? How do I run this code locally? How do I run it on virtual machine? And my story actually started with a very small step, so self-coding. After a couple of months, I realized that I can write the code, and I wrote my first chatbot, AI chatbot. So the idea which I came across was that I would use AI to help me to bring and to develop my own AI chatbot. And that was my first project. I developed it within a couple of months. And this is where I decided that I will make a pause with my banking career because I saw that this AI move, AI trend, is taking over the reality or taking over the planet. And I do remember this feeling, which I had the same in 2015 when I first heard about Bitcoin, because that was the technology which was very slowly starting, but it was very clear that it will be very important for people back in 2015. But I didn't have an opportunity and possibility to go deeper into it. With AI, I suddenly started to have the same feeling. I realized this is the thing. So if I, a banker without coding experience, can build within 2 months, and it was GPT 3.5. It was not even the tools which are available right now. When I first discussed with a guy, I told that, look, I think that there will be tools which will code on your behalf, and they will not give you code snippets, but they will give you a full applications. I have a friend, he's a head of data in one large Swiss company. And I do remember 2 years ago, he told me this is nonsense. This will never happen because and he is a coder. And he said, no, 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 like AI cannot do this. In this very beginning, I said, but if I can use this model 3.5 and I can code something like 1,000 something lines of code, moreover, I can ask AI to explain me what is written here, and I can do debugging myself. I can do further improvement. I can, with the help of AI, I can do all the tests, all the scaling exercises. I understood that this is the thing which will develop further, and it will bring a lot of power to developers, to non-technical people in bringing their ideas live. And of course, right now we have these tools like Bolt, Cursor. Recently, I came across Lovable. There was also I'm using a lot Replit, and all of these agentic systems where you come with your idea in an unstructured language, and you can get from it a prototype. And this is where I hope we will also touch this base that still my friend was right, because the full application, full scale application is still not possible. Yeah. So vibe coding is the thing which is making a lot of fun, but it's not really making a real product at the moment. But still, you can make a prototype, and then if you know how to code, if you have developed a project, you know how to debug it. So by saying this, at the moment, over the last 3 years, I have done my pet projects on Python more than 20. Some of them have become seemingly successful. I have the chatbots, AI chatbots on the Telegram social media, which has more than 100,000 users, and it has like 3,000 MAU, monthly active users, and DAO is a little bit less than 1,000. So, and this is done by a single person, and it's run on a very simple infrastructure, and it's a pet project. I would say it's successful because it has this user interaction. So a lot of people using it, and people find it useful. Beside this, there were 20 more projects. Majority of them would fail, and they would fail because they were pet projects. They were interesting for me, but they were not interesting for people outside. So I would just develop them, show to people, and then it doesn't have attraction.
But just to kind of contrast that with your banking experience, 20 projects, even if those are, the majority of them fail because, there's no product market fit. If you were in banking in the same amount of time, you would have maybe got what, 2 projects off of the ground
Yeah,
and delivered. So in terms of
maximum.
the throughput, there's a massive difference there, isn't there?
Indeed, and this still drives me a lot, and was driving me in my learning curve. So I realized that I cannot rely. I want to do this more project. I have a lot of ideas, and I had a news aggregator. I had some AI interpreters. I had some algorithms of helping in understanding user patterns. A lot of things, and we are not yet coming to Swiss AI Chatbot Factory. So before Swiss AI Chatbot Factory, but all of this was possible only because I decided to learn coding myself and to learn the full architecture. So to deploy even 20 projects, you need to know and to understand quite well the protocols, the infrastructure, the cloud infrastructure. You need to be very skillful with all the API connections, with the exchange of information between your servers, and a lot of things which I was learning just by doing. And that's why, again, I'm very happy to be here, because I was listening a lot of podcasts of different other people, trying to understand what kind of problems they met, how they made through these problems. And this helped me also in my learning curve. Because, yeah, actually my tutors were ChatGPT, and I was asking it a lot, and YouTube and other platforms where I would listen to the podcasts of the people who are smarter than me. And time to develop was indeed very important thing for me, because I realized that if I know how to code, if I know how the cloud infrastructure works, I can within a day, and also if I have access to the client, then within the day, I can wake up with an idea, and by the end of this day, this idea will be live in a product mode and already will be given to potential customers and users to have the test and to give me the feedback. In the banking world, this is not possible, even with the brightest imagination which you can have. Developing products like, I think they have this in the Silicon Valley, this motto: develop fast, fail fast, and finally find what you can do, something like this. For me, this is my main motto. So develop thing, understand is there a niche for this, and go further. And within the development circle, you get to know every time new things, new protocols, new libraries, new approaches. This, if you do this daily, and we discussed this with you before start of this episode, that when you have a lot of ideas in your head and you want to deliver them, you push yourself harder and harder, and this helps you also to learn faster. Like if you cannot accept that something is not possible to deliver or deploy right now, you will always think of this: okay, how can I do this? What is the possible approach? Or what is the algorithm which I didn't think of before, which I can use in order to solve that particular problem with any of the projects which you're doing?
So you were teaching yourself Python through the using ChatGPT as a tutor and YouTube videos as well, working on pet projects. At what point did you decide to step away from banking, and at what point did the Swiss AI Chatbot Factory come into being?
Yeah. So, these are two different periods of time. So to step away from banking was when one of the projects gathered more than 1,000 customers within a month, and private individuals. And this is where I said, okay, I can see that this is something which I like much more than I was doing in comparison to what I was doing before. By the way, I like banking. I think banking is a fantastic industry, and it has so much power in bringing positive things to the world. And I don't consider banking as an industry where you just make money. On the contrary, I think that the banking is a very fundamental industry for the society, because nothing which we have right now would be possible without banking. It's not the only industry, but it's fundamentally important. Our call would never happen. All the technology which we use would never appear. A lot of things.
All of that financial safety, a lot of people take for granted, especially when they want to bash bankers and complain about the system. But really, like, the modern world would not be possible if everyone had their savings stashed under their mattress.
Indeed. Indeed. No projects, no progress would happen. Yeah, we will be very much limited in the speed of development. So transactions, also banking multiplicator, that's banking are taking deposits and giving loans. This is the thing and the third layer is, of course, security and trust, which you said. That's central banks around the world. They're providing stability to the financial systems of each country. So, and I would say these three pillars allowed the humanity to blossom to the level which we are now, technologically, scientifically, and culturally. But banking is a very steady industry, and again, I got a lot of experience. I have only positive feelings and memories from that time. But I realized that now, with the help of AI, the world would start to change much faster, and I would like to join it. Having this feeling was one thing, but when I saw this in a practical way, that one of my projects, which I just launched in a month, gathered 1,000 people, which were using it daily. And for me, that was a moment of wow. I realized that I can try and test a lot of other projects and ideas which I have in my mind. I can do this in a small, my first idea, anyone. I can do everything only with ChatGPT. So myself, my brain, my creativity, and the capabilities of LLM, that would be more than enough. And that was, of course, the wrong understanding, which I had to realize a little bit later. And this is where Swiss AI Chatbot Factory appears. Before that, again, stopping with banking or stepping out completely from the banking, I did it in several smaller steps. Again, risk approach was important for me. At first, I had a sabbatical. I took a couple of months to learn further coding. And after this couple of months, I had this pivotal, or I had this milestone, internal milestone, saying, okay, if I would be able to code at the level that I would be able to develop programs myself, applications, then I'm on the right way. If after a couple of months I'm still like blindly going in the dark forest, then it's not mine. And then after 2 months, I realized I started to have a fight with ChatGPT, because he was proposing me some approaches, which I was saying, no, they will not work, or there is a more efficient way to do it. And I say, okay. And I could write code also myself by that time. Snippets of code were not a problem. And say, okay, I reached this milestone. The second milestone was I prolonged my sabbatical, and I would start to do some commercial projects. And this is where I started to do AI chatbots, releasing them to the market. And again, my question to myself, my milestone was, does it have a user interaction? And I gave myself additional 3 months to understand this, because coding and developing a product is one thing, but marketing and reaching out to clients is an absolute different area.
Yes.
And yeah, coming further, I spend a lot of time, efforts, and money in order to gain, I think, even more important experience in marketing than I realized from coding and learning coding. But then after 3 months, as I said, one of my projects reached these 1,000 customers, and I sort of started to understand how you move with the projects, how you can not only develop, but how you bring them to the market. Yeah, then I realized and I wanted to do something more. And I decided, okay, this is my life now. So I'm switching from banking to the coding and the AI. At some point, and the marketing was one of the reasons for this, I understood that I cannot do everything myself. Of course, I can write a code, I can create a marketing campaign, but to create all, first of all, to understand your clients, to find access to the clients, to create information which is acceptable by your client, it takes a very deep expertise, and also it takes a lot of time. And this is where when I started to look for other people to help me, so I realized that it probably makes sense to cooperate with someone. And then at some point, I had also around 5 projects which were live simultaneously. And I realized that this is maximum of my capacity. I cannot support more projects, and I still have new ideas. And I came to understanding that a couple of these projects were very promising. And I said, okay, now I really see that I need other people. And I started to go to conferences. I was sharing my first experience. I was telling people projects which I developed. One of the projects and one of the conference was 2 years ago in Zurich, Gen AI conference, where I was presenting Mazy machine learning algorithm for individualized sales yield enhancements. And the idea which yeah, naming is another thing which you have a lot of fun. Yeah. And idea behind this project was that based on the history of communication of or interaction of the user with any chatbot, you can you can teach special LLM model and create a system which will make analysis of this communication and will create for you the profile of the user. So like understanding his demographics. So is this person married? What is his age? Does he has or he doesn't have kids? What is he? Then you go further in psychology. So based on the way how we speak and what kind of language we use, what terms do we use, what words, constructions of the sentences, you can predict using combination of ML with AI. You can predict with a high certainty the profile of the person. So even from a simple chit chat, I was amazed with this idea, and I tested it, and even with in 2024, yeah, it was 24. Even at this time, the cost of such analysis was extremely low if you would rely a lot of aspects on LLMs. And
Well,
I was
just
present.
to
Yeah.
jump in there on specifics, kind of what kind of order of magnitude cost are you talking about there? Because I was working with a customer last week who was quite concerned about some various different machine learning proof of concepts that we were proposing to them about the operational costs of those. And we're expecting, everybody's heard that LLMs to train themselves cost billions. And that kind of seeps into people's knowledge that even just using these things is going to be horrifically expensive. Just to an order of magnitude, roughly how much were those things costing to either run or to train?
When we talk about 99.9 projects which people discuss and brainstorm and create right now, powered by the most capable LLM models, all of them have a possibility to fine tune. So that's why my approach when I was developing on this project was that I would take 3.5 at this time, still 3.5 from OpenAI, and I would fine tune it on my data set. And even data sets, like, okay, I could use something from my previous project, but then I would anonymize it and I would create a bigger data set again using LLM. So showing to LLM the samples, anonymized samples. And I was asking, okay, now create a sample which is 1,000 times larger or 1,000,000 times larger than this one. It takes time, it takes money, but at the end of the day, when you calculate, even with these fine-tuning exercises, we're talking about, I don't know, hundreds of bucks maximum. With ML, it's a slightly different. So machine learning, a simple machine learning exercise, you don't require external support. You can do it on your own machine. You can create the model yourself, and you can train it yourself. I was combining this thing. So I was using my local self-developed ML and fine-tuned ChatGPT, GPT 3.5. And the thing is that it was giving very interesting and very good results. So of course I tested it mostly on myself, whether it would understand who am I from my WhatsApp communication with some people. I was downloading and giving it to Maisie to make analysis of myself, and it was doing quite well. And the cost of this was that the single analysis was effectively costing me a fraction of the cent, because again, if it's pre-trained and fine-tuned model, and you have built an algorithm how this data is processed, then it's the one call to OpenAI, and with a predefined prompt, using your pre-trained fine-tuned model. For one person, you don't need to do it multiple times. You do it once, and it's a fraction of a cent. This case I was presenting on the one conference, and my current co-founder, my friend of mine now, came to me after this one. So we didn't know each other, and he came, he said, look, I was listening to you. I realized that you have some other projects and ideas, because I was sharing with people that I'm looking for investments, but investments not in terms of money, but I would like to work more with people that I could deliver together with them more and more scalable projects. So, and I was inviting people to get in touch and to look together on what we can do. And then Robert came to me and said, look, I live long life in the coding environment, in data science. I have developed this and that projects. And I'm also quite curious to see where the AI wave can bring us, and what we can do as a community. And we started to work with him. Funny enough, I had at this time a couple of requests of developing AI chatbots, but for the companies. And this is where we started to do it together with Robert. And at some point, we realized that our chatbots much smarter than the regular chat. The problem of the chatbots, especially when you go to the website, that all of them are silly. Like majority of them are dumb. And the problem is that they're usually done by people with a very good and high skills in programming, but it's very hard to bring the proper sales logic inside the bot, or relationship management. And that's why majority of bots, even before AI, but even before AI and even after AI era started, they have this problem that people try to predefine communication with the user, and then you have these fallback scenarios when you ask something and the chatbot says you, I don't know, please contact the support, or he understands you wrong, or he is providing you non-relevant big snippets of information which you don't want to read because it doesn't help you. And that's why people think usually that chatbots are dumb. So we were doing this manually, and we realized that we already disrupt the chatbot approach, because our chatbots were not dumb. I was reusing here a lot of my banking experience, relationship management, building a relationship with the customer, sales logic, and also we were bringing the most recent developments in the AI. So we were using the latest AI models. We were using a lot of prompting. We were working with hallucinations from the day one, and we were testing different approaches. How do we combine the proper dialogue so that the person doesn't feel that he speaks with the robot, but also with a high quality that we can the results, which will be very accurate and very data driven, but in the form of regular communication. And we were doing this a couple of times. And then we realized that we had the brainstorming session with Robert when we discussed that if we carry on like this, okay, again, we will bring maybe 12 chatbots a year or maybe 20, because every time when you deliver a chatbot, follow, and I think this was the success of our chatbots, that we were making a lot of research before we start building the chatbot. I would go to the company website. I would understand what it is doing. We would make a forecast what kind of clients, or we would make assumption what kind of clients would come to this chatbot, how they will speak, what kind of information do they need, and all of this logic we would then bring to the development of a chatbot. Also, we would take the data from the company. We would make its normalization. So a lot of when you speak with an enterprise, usually people say, yeah, let it speak just on behalf of our company, but we have some data sets, some standard agreements. We have something on our side. We have something here and there. And this is our knowledge base. And let the chatbot speak on behalf of this data. But if the data is unstructured, you have a problem that your chatbot doesn't know to which area to go in order to pick up the relevant information. Also, it can be conflicting, and very often it happens for many companies that they have a conflicting information, and we had to sort all of this out. So when we were creating a chatbot, we would make a pre-analysis. We would go inside the data, trying to understand what is relevant, what is not relevant, eliminate these misunderstandings or conflict of information. And then we will build their interface layer and we'll give it to the company. In this process, it consists of 8 steps. We realized that if we would automate some of these processes with the help of AI agents, we would be much faster. And then we were having a brainstorm session once and we said, okay, but can we automate the full process? Like, we did it multiple times, so we know what have to be done, but can we develop for each step a separate AI agent which will speak with a predecessor and will speak with a follow guy, and they will do everything what we do, but without us. So in the beginning, we said, yeah, and it was quite obvious that we can try to do it, but not clear is it possible or not. And the first beta project of Swiss AI Chatbot Factory was creating a website within 10 to 20 minutes, because we were able to actually replicate all our logic, what we do. We were given its website information. It would read the data, then structure the data in a certain way, create RAG, create a special layer of defining which silo within the data is responsible for which information. And then we create the layer which is controlling the hallucinations and false information. And then we would wrap it into the visual chatbot widget and send it to the customer. So, and this is how the Swiss AI Chatbot Factory started. Very important thing here that we started with doing this with our hands first. So we knew the project, we knew all the process. We were developing it multiple times, and we were quite clear with all the problems which might appear. And then, because we were quite advanced, both of us at this time, in AI technology, we realized that we can build AI agents to replicate our actions in each of these steps in creating a chatbot, and effectively to give the power to AI to create. So right now, after more than a year of Swiss AI Chatbot Factory being live, the period of creation of a chatbot right now is less than 3 minutes. So it can be done by anyone. It doesn't require any skills. So the person comes to the portal, opens the portal.swiss-bot.com, register there, click the button, create a new chatbot, and gives his URL address, and then takes his fingers off the keyboard. And he's lucky if he has time to go and take one coffee, because usually it will be developed even faster than this. And then within 3 minutes, he gets back the fully trained AI chatbot, which knows what his company does, which knows all the information, which can speak on behalf of the company, rely only on factual data, speak all the languages possible for communication, understand non-linear requests, because the biggest problem, one of the biggest problem is always that people speak in a very strange manner. Yeah, so we have typos, we ask questions differently, we want to speak in the way that we speak. We don't want to structure our sentences that a robot will understand it. Yeah, we would speak, even with a chatbot, like we would speak with a real human being. And our chatbot understands these questions because it always see the question from the angle of the chatbot and the website which is standing behind it. So we have a dozen of clients at the moment. Some of them quite big Swiss companies with a big traffic on their websites. And yeah, we are quite happy with the product. Right now, we are coming to the new era or to the new step of development of this product to effectively bring in the words to the people and telling that now you can have a disrupt AI chatbot on your website just using your URL web link, and you will have the best in class sales representative on your website, which will speak on behalf of the company and which will answer all the questions, will generate warm leads. And you can always see transparently what kind of information it used to prepare the answer. And you can even customize the way how it speaks. So it replicates your manner or sort of promotes some kind of products which you would like. Yeah. So Daniel, this is the story of Swiss AI Chatbot Factory and where we are right now.
It's an awesome story. It's on a number of levels. I think a couple of things that jump out. One, that on the journey to creating this, you engaged with the learning process and you used ChatGPT as a tutor, aiming to understand it yourself and also benchmarking, kind of testing your own understanding and setting yourself those thresholds of, if I understand this much by this point in time, then I should proceed with it, as opposed to just kind of hoping that AI will solve everything for you and that you don't need to engage your own brain so much. I think the kind of desire to understand things under the hood seems like a differentiator. Have you encountered many other folks that have kind of attempted a similar journey, but maybe not engaged with the underlying tech so much?
Yeah, I have a couple of examples from my community, from my friends and family. And I see this that in most cases, people indeed don't want to go deep enough to the ground and to the basics. So people would like to create something using AI, but when they meet the problem, and I had this multiple times. I have a friend, a school friend. He also got into this area, but I do remember he was doing one project which I helped him also. It was a school AI tutor. And there was a problem that for mathematics, you had to use a different model. Yeah, like AI is quite bad, or it was quite bad for a long time with math questions. And this is where you would need to use a multiple LLM approach. So, and then to understand that, for example, if the tutor is helping with math, then you need to pick up and rely on the thinking model. And if you're replying questions about history and geography, then you can use a regular GPT model. And this differentiator is quite simple, actually. So based on the input, you can understand what is the question about. And I do remember we were speaking with him, and I told him, look, it's quite simple. I think it's like, I don't know, 10 lines of code, maybe 15 to sort this out. And he said, no, but I don't want to code. And he spent, I think, days and days with ChatGPT trying to push it to write the proper code, which he can copy and paste, instead of spending these days going into the code, trying to understand the logic and to sort this out within, I don't know, 10 minutes or something. And this is the thing which I see with majority of people, that people like and still tend to use AI as a magic pill. I ask it, and it happened from the day one. Very my first project, I still remember people were telling, yeah, but I asked your chatbot something and he told me some rubbish. And I said, oh, he didn't tell you some rubbish. He told you what you asked it. And the thing is that on some things, I can actually. At first, I was asking people, can you be more specific when you speak with AI? And then I realized that no, it doesn't work well. And then I said, okay, on my side, I can predict the user behavior. I can understand that the user will be always asking some random strange questions, but I would build AI agent, which will read these questions and try to structure it in the way that it would be understandable for the next AI agent to prepare their reply. And I think this is the biggest difference of people who develop AI tools, production level tools, that they go under the hood and they understand the concept, what's happening behind, versus the people who vibe code or just having this creativity fun in trying to develop some projects. I had some idea I wanted also to share. One of the recent things. So let me, in this regards, tell about the story, which I like a lot, about understanding how AI works. And this is a story about ChatGPT 5, the GPT-5 model. So when it just appeared, a lot of people tested it and wanted to understand how smart is the model. And one of the funniest thing was that some people asked it, if I have a mug and I seal it on the top and I cut the bottom, can I drink water from it? And the answer of GPT-5, the smartest model on the planet at this time, was that no, you cannot drink. And people, of course, were making a lot of fun, saying, yeah, look how stupid AI is. Because like we as a human beings understand that if you have a mug and it's sealed on the top and cut on the bottom, you just turn it around. But for some reason, the smartest model didn't understand. And everybody were making, haha, look how silly is the AI. For me, it was a different question. Like, I realized that no, the problem is somewhere else. Like, cannot believe that GPT-5 doesn't know this. It's a very smart model, and I'm going to build some applications using this AI. So I need to understand what is the problem. And the answer was I found quite fast. I copied the same prompt, and then I provided additional request, additional information, which would shape the response of the model. And I was telling that on top of the initial prompts, I was telling that I don't care how we name parts of the mark, whether it's bottom or whether it's top. For me, what is very important is that I just need to drink water from this device after the exercises which I performed with the sealing and cutting. So please let me know how can I do this. And immediately GPT-5 replied that just turn around the mug and you can drink from it. This is the one of the good examples of understanding how LLM and how LLM models work. That in order to get a good quality result, you need to understand and you need to provide it with enough of information. You need to give it a very clear instructions, and you need to be very specific in what kind of result you expect. So and then you will get a lot of productivity and a lot of good results out of these models. But don't expect that AI is a magic pill which can solve all the problems. You need to be experts in the field. As with Swiss AI Chatbot Factory, we were experts in building AI chatbots which speak like humans. And the same, if you're building something with the help of AI, you need to be an expert in the field which you are building, and this will result into the good projects.
On the subject of quality of outputs, earlier you mentioned that the Swiss AI Chatbot Factory has a particular layer in it to help reduce hallucinations. What's the general strategy there?
Yeah. Indeed, maybe I would not be able to reveal the detailed structure
Secret
because then,
sauce.
yeah, and also it can be used for the purpose to test us, and I wouldn't want to give this opportunity quite broadly. But the approach is the following. Still, I think we came to this approach also after making a lot of tests and consulting with the experts on the market, checking the best cases. The approach is the following: that whenever user interacts with a chatbot, first of all, the first rule, it's never allowed that the request of the user goes directly to the function which is preparing the reply. It's forbidden. So between the user input and actually the processing of the reply, there are several layers of AI agentic checks and research. While the input is processed, it is checked whether it is related to the content of the website or not related, whether it's there are some definitions of the type of the chats which we are performing. So whether I would call it a simple chit chat, or whether it's a request of the data, or whether you can see already from the very beginning that this is attempt to abuse or to jailbreak or to actually use wrongly your chatbot, so ask non-relevant information. So this is the first layer and the first step. On this layer, and again, we use AI agent, which is performing this analysis, and then it's rerouting further the input. Then input would go to the preparation of the answer. And again, if it's a chit chat, then you don't need to upload all the data of the company. But if it's a request of, do you have an office in this particular city? Then you have to rely on the data. And this is where we use a RAG approach. So we use all the data is vectorized. And but also we actually have two databases for each website. We use a vector database and we use a textual linguistic database for linguistic search. And then we perform simultaneously search in terms of vector search and also linguistic search. And then we have certain internal rules to compare the reply to assess whether this reply is correct for the for the inquiry, or whether it's fitting or not fitting. And for vector, you can do this based on the probability, on the similarity score. So you have some thresholds, whether if the similarity is below something, then it's non-relevant information. If it's higher, then it's above. But on top, if you bring also linguistic results, so independently from vector search, you made a textual search, and you found with the help of AI, not with a control F, but you ask AI agents to read the data from a relevant data silos and to assemble and to understand the reply. And then you can combine vector with a linguistic. And then you have another agent which is assessing the initial request, the outputs, and also the background data of the company which we're having, whether it is correct or not. And only after this, the user would get the response. Given the current level of technology, all of this takes a fraction of a second. So there is no delay. The person sees this as a regular communication. You ask, and then you get the reply. But behind, you have this detailed pipeline, which allow us to eliminate the situation that people just get inside the data and get inside the LLM and try to jailbreak it, or they look for some non-relevant information, or that the bot is providing the wrong information. There are also some rules that if information is not found, then there is a very strict protocol what LLM is allowed and not allowed to do, again with additional controls, in order to prevent hallucination. We had a very interesting test back in times that at one of the models, and by the way, we're using not a single model. We're not only relying on OpenAI, we're relying on several providers, which in our pipeline, we use different LLM models in different AI agents. And we tested thousands of times, different combination. And now we know what is the best way to service the whole pipeline. But at some tests, we found that's a very funny thing, that if, for example, there is a content or in the history of the chat, the LLM sees that the user was very aggressive in his communication with the model, then the model tend to hallucinate the answer which will fit which will please the user in a drastically high level. Yeah. So the probability of hallucination was, again, based on the thousands of tests which we ran in this situation, was coming to more than 90%. So that's effectively this was like a pattern for hallucination. So if you aggressively speak with the model, if you push it, then it will answer whatever you want and it will create the data without actually relying on the real data. That was very scary thing. And the only reason how to work with such things is, as I said, to have a very detailed pipeline of how your information is getting inside preparation of the reply, how the data is retrieved, how it's processed, and then also how it goes back to the user. This is why we call Swiss AI Chatbot Factory, it's a factory, because it's like on the conveyor of the real factory. And both when we create a chatbot, but also both when we prepare the reply for each single user request, that it goes through a conveyor where certain AI agents take the information, process it in the way, make the assessment, put a stamp on it, and then process and give it further to the next conveyor entity. This is why we call it also factories. It's really factory now, understand it.
Yeah, and the kind of meta level of you using AI to build AI chatbots, I think that's, the in terms of the wider implications for the industry, I think that's a good example of how, if you just take things at first glance, the amount of change that is likely to happen doesn't become apparent to you. Once you've done this, you've built some chatbots that use AI to provide their answers, and then you realize you can use AI to build the AI chatbots that provide those answers. That higher order thinking is where the big impact starts to come. And in terms of impact on the wider software development industry, the fact that you were able to, with a few months of swatting up yourself and learning how to use Python and use these tools, generate 20 different prototypes in a short amount of time, that to me suggests that the traditional software development kind of process and product management and prototyping and exploring user needs should probably be paying attention to that kind of thing and adopting that sort of approach.
Yeah. To be fair and frank, my circle of learning Python, so the time when I really felt that I use this language professionally, I'm not having any more blind spots. I don't know all the libraries. It's for me, I think it's impossible. But the concept and the approach is so clear for me that I can use in Python and having AI agents like GPT or any other system which will help me to code, I can code a lot of things, if not to say almost everything. So the whole this circle, it took me 9 months plus. So my and it was very interesting that in the beginning it was very steep, yeah, learning curve. So you get your first information, you get your first functions, you understand how you develop variables, how you exchange variables, and then you think, oh, it's so easy, and then you go, and then once you come to the really big projects, so where you have multiple servers, when you need to deal with databases like Postgres, when you need to have external web hooks and again many other things to build a proper industrial product, then you come to the situation, oh, there is so deep and I need to learn many things. I would say, again, learning something from scratch, and I think this 9-month period is a very accurate period if you do it daily. And I was doing this like a daily job. I was coding 12 to 14 hours a day, almost 9 months.
Hardcore.
It's not that I wake up 2 hours of coding and then I go somewhere else. No, it was really a full-time job, which I liked and enjoyed because every day I was solving a different problem. I was going a little further, and I felt I had this feeling that if I learn this, I will be able to do more. But 9 months of hardcore coding, spending very little time with your family, spending no time with your friends, and maybe some calls of my friends which were calling me and asking, what do you do? Coding Python, and they were telling you're crazy, stop doing this, you're a banker, you shouldn't do these things. Have you had your sabbatical? Please come back to banking and don't don't carry on with what you're doing. I'm very happy to have this conversation today. I think looking back, not everything which I said was very specific. Even I tried to bring some specific things, but I'm more than happy to get in touch with people. So if anyone would be interested to follow up on something of what we have discussed in more details, I'm more than open. So on LinkedIn, on X, this would be my two main platforms. LinkedIn would be the main one, and also for the people who would like to test and try Swiss AI Chatbot Factory as a technology, we have a special present all the time. It's a blue helm with a logo of Swiss AI Chatbot Factory that people can feel themselves that they were part of, and now they are part of this factory approach, but where AI agents is working, and they're doing this disruption level AI chatbots, which are finally smart and answer the questions in the way you want it. So I'm sharing this also with people who would test the technology and write me back and say what they liked or they didn't like. So we are giving away this real help. So you can use it on your daily construction work if you're engaged in any.
Excellent. So people can look you up on LinkedIn via your name, Nick Gushchin, which will be spelt in all the places we publish the podcast. What's your X handle, and how do people get in touch if they want to test a Swiss AI Factory?
So the X is the same. So Nick Gushchin. I will send you the link to it that we can add it. And Swiss AI Chatbot Factory has the following web address: so portal.swiss-bot.com. So you get there and you get to the portal where within 3 minutes you can create any chatbot, test it, speak with it, and see the things which we were discussing. So behind all these processes, all this conveyor which is happening, you can see in the real life how user-friendly and easy it looks like when you're coming to test it.
Excellent. Cool. Right. Well, thanks very much, Nick. Thanks very much for your time, and hopefully we'll speak to you again.
Daniel, thank you so much, and wish you a lovely rest of the day.
Hopefully you enjoyed that chat, and I found it really quite interesting, the angle of how Nick was able to iterate on product ideas that quickly. If one individual can do that, then what does that mean for product organizations and prototyping inside the traditional software delivery process? I also think it was interesting looking at their approach to reducing the chance of hallucinations. Often when you talk to people about their fears of LLM-powered chatbots, they assume that you just pass the prompt from end users directly to the LLM, and that doesn't seem to be a sensible case, and not a very realistic one either. If you have any feedback on the Waves of Innovation podcast, then please do email us at wavesofinnovation@resync.com. That's re-cinq.com. And otherwise, be good to each other, and you'll hear me in the next one.